Welcome. Photoshop, Chapter 7. We are going to, this is basically kind of a unit chapter that you'll get to create kind of a picture of your own. You're going to have to end up going to the internet and getting a few images. And basically what you would need to do is when you go to the internet, you would type in, you would make sure you go to Google. So when you go to Google, you want to type in images up here at the top, or click on images, and then go to maybe a coyote and enter. Now, you have to get a coyote that has a high pixel resolution. If you look at this one, it's 531 by 450. I need a little bit higher than that because it's going to be a better quality. So when you do is you click search tools, you come over to size, and I always just use large or medium, preferably large. When you click large, now if you look at the pixels, this one's 1350 by 1050, so that's a pretty large file. This is the one I did. So you would click on it, and then come into this part. You would right click and you would do save image as. Don't do save link, do save image as. And you would find your folder in Photoshop and create a folder in there called Chapter 7, and you want to put all your images. I've already gotten all my images that I need. What you need to get is a landscape photo, and I will show you something that I got. So if you go to the landscape folder, if you go to your folder on the C drive and you want to save it under your Photoshop file, I see. Basically, I have the coyote, I have my landscape, so you need to find a picture of some type of landscape. And you need two like objects of some sort. I picked a raccoon and a coyote, so you would see the raccoon, and you also need a sign. So I picked this landfill sign. The object of this project is to do a cleanup. It's called a cleanup. So you want to create a landscape photo that's going to have, I also have one large object, and my large object is this beat up car. I'm going to take this car out of this picture. So basically you will use the coyote and the raccoon as your small objects. I'm going to use the house as my landscape, and I'm going to use this beat up car as my large object, and then I have a sign. So basically you want to create a picture that is talking about cleanup, or cleanup of like a landscape. So you're going to put a picture and put like junk in it, and a sign that tells you to clean it up, or it's a landfill, to try and keep the environment clean. So that's kind of the object of this project. So you're going to have to go to the internet and get one landscape, two small objects, one large object, and a sign. And then open up Photoshop, and I want you to go to File, and I want you to go New. And when you do New, we're going to do just a regular size piece of paper. So you're going to click Preset, and you go down to US Paper, and you can do a landscape or you can do a portrait. Right now, this is set up for a portrait, and I'm going to change it to a landscape. So I'm going to type 11 here and 8.5 here, because I want a landscape. You can do portrait if you want. Portrait would be up and down. Landscape is side to side. I'm going to change my 8-bit to 16-bit, a little bit higher resolution, and make sure your resolution is set at 300. And then you can title it your name, Chapter 7, initials, and then your last name. Now what you have to do is you need to bring in those pictures, and you're going to bring in the landscape first. So make sure you have your folder open and just grab the picture, drag it up here into the copy. Now I have to take this into the cleanup, into my picture size. So basically I can do a Control A, selects everything. So Control A, and then cut it out, drag it up here, bring it down, let go, and now I can stretch it out. If you hold down shift, it keeps the picture proportionate. If I let go of shift, now I can shrink it and make it squished and so on. I like to keep the shift on so it doesn't distort the picture. And then I just drag it so that it's big enough to fit the entire area. And that looks good enough there. Now what I want you to do is I want you to delete the background layer. Okay, I want you to add a new layer in. I want you to go grab your big object, which mine is the car. And you can actually close this old house layer. Now I have the car. Okay, now instead of cutting the car out, what we're going to do is we're going to do a layer mask, and it's really neat. So basically, you're going to do a Control A, and you're going to take the entire picture into your project. Okay, so I have the entire picture, and you want to try and set up the picture so it's proportionate to the rest of the picture. So my car looks like it's maybe a little big, so I'm going to shrink it down just a little. So it's in proportion to that house. So I want this car right here. I'm going to hit the check mark. And what we're going to do is now we're going to select it. Make sure it's on the layer 2. Now I'm going to select that car. Remember, next to the P on the keyboard is how you make your selection tools bigger and smaller. So I'm going to zoom in, hold down Alt, and use the ball on the mouse. Okay, I'm going to select this car. And this doesn't have to be totally perfect because I'm going to show you a little trick that's really neat. And I got to get the minus, let's get the plus tool and go around this window. And now I got to get the minus tool and take away some stuff. I'm going to take away the inside of that window. And take away the shadow, take away this shadow right here. And I got to get this again, so grab the plus tool. You can go in and take this out if you want, like take out stuff if you need to take out this background back here. So that's kind of the idea, and basically now what I want to do is I'm going to do a layer mask. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click this little button right here and watch what happens. Voila. So now I have my car, right? And it looks like it's not real, like it's not fitting in with this picture. I can move it around. I can move it all over. So what I want to do now is I want to grab the eraser tool, and I want the grass to kind of come through on this object. So I'm going to grab this first button. It's a fade button, and I want to grab this, drag the size up just a little bit, and watch what happens. If I have the white over here selected, it's going to erase. Okay? Going to erase it. Okay, if I have the black selected, it's going to add back to it, so I can color it back on. Okay, and that's how you would do that. Basically, if you drag down, you're going to find some other little brushes. These are called brushes, and this one kind of looks like grass, and I like this one because what I can do is I can make it bigger. And if I take it back to white, whoops, that's too big. Too big. So take it down. And I can kind of make it look like the opacity up here at the top. I can click on here and I can drop the opacity down, and now it's going to be a little more faint looking. See, it's a little bit more faint. I kind of want a little bit more sharper grass. I want it to be brighter. The flow, we'll talk about that later. But basically, I can come over here and just kind of make it look like grass is growing up around. And if you notice, mine is kind of changing angles, so it's not the same angle every time. And the way you can change that is going into the, I don't want the airbrush style. The way you can change so that it's not the same angle is you would go to Window and make sure Brush is selected. And when you have Brush, you see Shape Dynamic. I click on that, and you can change how it has a different size every time you click. You can use Angle Jitter and turn that up so it changes the angle of stuff. Scattering is so you can change how stuff scatters differently. This also changes angle, changes the shape, kind of. It scatters it around. Transfer. There's a bunch of different presets in there. Smoothing makes it a little bit nicer, cleaner looking. But basically, the scattering and shape dynamics. Shape dynamics is going to change size. See how how it's getting bigger and smaller. That's the size. Okay, but that is in the brush presets, and you can mess with that. You can have a dual brush. You can have different things going on. So now I want to come in here and I'm going to grab my eraser tool again, and I want to change the brush. So I click up here and I'm going to go back up to a round brush, and I want to just fade this just a little bit. I'm not going over top of it. I'm going here, and you can see it's kind of starting to fade. And now it kind of looks more like that car is part of that picture, rather than the car just sitting inside the picture. But you can see that that car really is starting to become more of the picture. And that's kind of what we're going to do. I'm going to kind of go around. I'm going to go, whoops. I'm going to go around, and I want to soften this whole image around the sides just a little bit. Just so it's not so sharp around the edges. So I kind of went around the edge and took it back a little bit. Okay, so that's the first object, what you're going to do. Kind of looks cool, like this is part of the picture now. And then what you want to do is you want to go and grab the other two images, your small ones. I'm going to grab the coyote, and you can actually just select, do a Control A, and you're going to do the same thing. You want to grab the entire thing, and we're going to do a mask. So now I need to shrink this down even farther, Shift and drag it in, and actually this guy, he needs to be a little bit bigger because I'm going to put him way up here in the front so it looks like he's closer to the camera. So he needs to be a little bit bigger. He's going to be pouncing on top of that raccoon. So now I'm just going to select that coyote, and you do the same thing. Do a selection, click the brush, grab the plus tool, make sure it's big enough. I'm going to zoom in and select the coyote, and when you do that, you see how the grass, his legs are hid in the grass. Well, we're going to hide him in this grass, so just go ahead and get as much as you can of the coyote. And then take away what you don't want. And this time, I'm going to do a little something different. I want to do a refine edge. So I'm going to click up here and click refine edge and look at it a little bit. See how it's a little rough around the edge? I want to go in and do a feather it just a little bit, and I want to smooth it up just a little bit. So now you can see it looks a little more cleaner around the edge. Feather a little bit more, and I'm going to say okay. And now I'm going to take that and I'm going to mask it. Just click this little button down here. So now I masked it. And I'm going to do the same thing with that brush tool. I'm going to bring in a brush, and I want that grass tool again. So I'm going to click on the 20 right here. And sorry, that's not the brush tool. The brush tool is right here. Click on this right here and drag it down. And you got another grass tool kind of right here. And I like this one, this grass tool, and I'm going to you got to grab the eraser, not the brush, the eraser tool. Sorry, eraser tool, and click here. Go down to the grass, and you're gonna click, and we're just gonna make it look like he is part of this grass. And again, I'm going to grab the eraser tool and change it to the circle. I'm going to fade it in. Just click right here. And then I'm going to grab the raccoon. And we're going to do the same thing. But my raccoon actually is going the wrong direction. So what you would have to do is you would have to grab the raccoon, grab the whole thing, Control A, drag it into the project. This lesson is working on the. So what you want to do is grab the selection tool again right here, and you want to select the raccoon. Or whatever object you're working with. I have the raccoon. Yours should be probably different. And take away whatever you don't want. Again, let's do a refine edge. And I like to use that feather tool just a little bit. Smooth it up a little bit more on the feather. See, if I feather too much, that's what happens. So you don't want to do that. Just feather just a little bit, because you could also do a defringe. We've done that before. Okay, so I'm going to actually come down here and mask it. Now it's way too big, so what I have to do is I have to click that selection tool and just shift down, control down. Okay, and we can shrink it down. So kind of get it in proportion. And actually my raccoon is going the wrong way. So what we want to do is we're going to flip it. So we're going to go Edit, Transform, Flip Horizontal. And he's running the other way from the wolf, or the coyote. And again, we want to use that erase tool, and we're going to make sure it's white, selected white. Grab your brush tool, and you're going to use the grass tool again. And I'll show you the defringe here in just a minute. Kind of just make that guy disappear. Maybe put some over top of his face. He's running through the grass. And this grass is really tall, so maybe you don't see that much of him. And then I like to grab that tool again, the circle tool, and I'll come in and just kind of erase. I want to give some more grass. I'm going to use the other grass tool and use it down here. Alright, so I have my raccoon running through the grass. And basically, let's do a defringe on him. So you actually want to come back over here and click the thumbnail right here. Go up to image. Actually, might want to do let's try that first. Go to image or layer, matting, so you can't defringe a mask. So this is where the matting might not work. Defringe, say 2 pixels, say okay. And it's not going to do much because we actually did a mask on this anyways. So basically that's how you do your raccoon. And the next thing you need to do is bring in that sign. So you're going to bring in the sign. So bring in that sign is the last thing you need to do. And you're going to place that sign. So just go ahead and do a Control A and grab the sign, drag it into your project, drop it back down. And again, we'll shrink it down later. Go ahead and select it. I'm going to go ahead and just do that while you do yours. It's the same process, just select it all, and then you're going to go down here and click the mask button. So go ahead and select your sign. I'm not going to select all the way down to the fence. Go ahead and delete whatever you don't need off of the sign. Remember, you can always adjust it in your, after you masked it, you can always come back and take away or erase stuff if you need to. I didn't grab this right here. Come in here, take away that, take away that, take away that. And again, I'm just doing this really quick. And basically I have my sign. I'm going to mask it now. Good enough. And I'm going to shrink it down. Yours should look better than mine. And I'm going to, you can place that sign anywhere. And let's drop that sign. Maybe let's drop it way back here in the back. I want to drop it down really small. I'm going to put it back here. And again, do your erase tool. Grab your brush, grab your grass, and make your grass look like, your sign look like it's in the grass. Okay, and that's pretty much all you need to do for this Photoshop. Oh, last thing you do need to do is add a title. So you come in, click the text, just click up here at the top, and you need to type in clean up the in I like clean up the earth better. So we're gonna make a clean up the earth sign, and then we're gonna do a layer style on here. So go to layer style. I want to do a bevel and emboss, and I'm gonna do a drop shadow. I'm gonna change the color to like a yellowish white. I want to glow in the distance. Opacity, turn it up a little bit. Spread, size. If you turn it off, you can see how it's glowing. Let's go to normal and drop the size back down. Drop the distance down a little. Spread down a little bit. I don't want it to glow that much. And I want, you can do pattern overlays. Pattern overlays, you can load patterns in. A gradient overlay. You can change the gradient by picking one of these, or you can have your own colors. You can pick this color right here, and then pick red, and you can pick green, and then here I can select this color, and I can change it to, and I can change this color to any color I want. That's red. Basically, oh, I gotta say okay, and then I want to select this color, and I'm changing this color to blue. Say okay, and I can say okay there, and now my title changes to that. So you can do a gradient overlay. If you want to add more in, hold down Alt and select one of these, and now I can create a third color. Click this, and maybe I want to do white right here. Say okay. Say okay. Now I have the red, white, blue. I don't want the gradient overlay. I'm going to take that off. I can do just a single color overlay and pick a color that I want. So you can do lots of things with this layer style. You can do an inner shadow. You can do an inner glow. You can do stroke, but this gradient overlay works good if you want to do multiple colors. So we're just say okay. I like this title. You can make it bigger. You can also do something cool and do a rasterize. So right click and rasterize type, and then I'm going to do an erase effect. Actually, I want to mask right now. I'm going to mask, and I'm going to click the erase tool. I want to grab my brush, and I want to fade it like it's in the clouds. Try and do that. Like it's just resting on the cloud. And I might have to go back and click on the P a little bit and come back and fade that in, and that's pretty much it. One thing I want to add to this picture is the coloring of the car is a little different than the coloring of the house. And so I'm going to show you how to do adjustment layers. I'm going to show you how to do the adjustment layers. So if you have the car or whatever picture that you want to change, you need to pick one of the objects in your picture, and you're going to change the coloring of it to match the coloring of the rest of the picture. This one is really red and really stands out, so I'm going to pick that car. You need to go up to Image, Adjustments, and there's different ones you can do. You can do the brightness, levels, curves, exposure. I'm going to do curves on this one. I'm going to select the curve, and then I'm going to drag the famous S curve. I'm going to drag this up. It doesn't do anything. You're not going to see anything right now. And I'm going to drag this down, and you're going to see how that darkened that image? I'm going to drag this up a little bit more and drag this one down. And if I check the preview, you can see the difference really. If I uncheck it, that's what it looked like. And that's what it's going to look like now. Okay, so if I drag this down and take this one up, go the opposite, it gives it a little bit more faded look. Since the barn is a little faded, I'm going to do the opposite S. So I dropped it down, take the preview off, and see it's a little more red, and I unclick it, and you can see it fades out a little bit. I'm gonna drop this down a little bit more. So now it looks more like it's rusted, it's not so red. And drop it down a little bit more. Take this one up. It might be a little too much. Drop this back down. That looks good. I'm going to say okay. So that was applied just to the car. Okay. Now let's say I want to apply something to everything on this picture. I'm going to click up here, and I'm going to click the adjustment layers right here. So I'm going to do a curves on this one. If I hit curves, it's going to apply to everything down below the curve layer. So if I drag this up, you can see everything got brighter. And if I drag this down, now you can see the blacks are getting darker. Okay, but that's everything. Okay, everything in the picture changed colors because I clicked one of these. Okay, so I can change it. I can uncheck the eyeball and it turns it off, turns it back on. So if I drag this way down, off, on. So that levels is a little different. It adjusts everything on the picture, and I kind of like it where it's a little bit more black. Okay, a little bit more black, but brighten it up a little bit. Okay, and if I want to, maybe if I wanted to turn this whole picture black and white, I could come up here, and this one right here is black and white. If I click that, it turns everything black and white. If I want to turn it off, turn it off. Let's say I don't want everything black and white, I just want parts of it black and white. I can delete this, and I think if I start here and click the black and white, it does everything. So I thought it would. I just did anything below, and actually, the raccoon is in color still, and so is the sign. So it did work. So anything below that picture, but you have to do it before. If I try and move it, it doesn't work. So if I click layer and now I hit black and white, the picture will be black and white, but everything else is in color, as you can see. So if you want to just do certain things, you can do that. So basically, that is how that adjustment layer works. If you want to do just to the individual layer again, you pick that layer. So let's say I want to do this coyote. I'm going to select this layer 4 right here, go up to image, adjust, and I'm going to pick, maybe let's do a brightness, and let's change the brightness on it. I'm going to bring up, so if you look at the coyote, actually I think that's the raccoon. It is the raccoon. Let's bring up the raccoon. You can see the raccoon gets brighter, and I can get him really super bright, or I can dye it down. If I turn the preview off, you can see he got a little brighter. I'm going to hit cancel on that one, so it cancels it. I want to do the wolf, so I'm going to click layer 3, image, adjust, and I'm going to do brightness again, and let's see what happens with the coyote. So you can make him really super bright. You can make him more dark too. You can also turn that off and see if it looks, I kind of like it a little bit darker. It looks a little bit better. So I'm going to say okay on that one. And basically the car still looks a little off, so I'm going to select the car again, and I want to do a adjust hue and saturation. This is going to change the color of the car. I can drop this down. I can make it brighter. I can make it darker. Okay, and basically I can change the color, make it less saturated, so it's not so red, or I can make it really red. But basically I'm going to drop the saturation down a little bit so it's not so red, and it kind of blends into the picture a little bit more. You can also do this colorize thing, and it changes it totally different, but that's just another feature you can do stuff with. But now you have, if I turn this off, you can see it's red, and now it's a little bit more brownish. If I change that, I say okay. So now the actual car kind of ties into the picture a little bit better. The sign I could tie in. Anyways, those are things that you can do with the adjustments. Remember, this up here applies to everything down below it. As you can see, this right here, I'm going to hit the curves. Okay, turn it back on. And then if you just want to apply it to an individual layer, you would have to use the image adjustments right here. And that's all about adjustment layers. We'll work more with that later on. Go ahead and do a file save. And then you want to basically save this file into that chapter 7 folder. So you want to create a new folder, chapter 7. And CH7 R Swartz would be your file, and then you're going to drag that into the Chapter 7 collaboration folder. And great job.